Time feels faster now. Weeks turn into months, months into years. There's this quiet dread that we're missing our own lives. But this feeling, this modern anxiety, it's actually ancient. 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote a letter on the shortness of life. He said life is long enough if you know how to use it. The problem is, most of us don't live, we just stay busy. This isn't a lecture on old philosophy. It's a manual, 26 principles, actionable things to change your relationship with time itself. To stop fearing life's brevity, to start using it, to make it a source of power and purpose. So, how did Roman emperors use the awareness of death to fuel their most productive? What single mental shift can turn anxiety about the future into focused action today? By the end, you'll have a complete Stoic framework to move from feeling like time's victim to becoming its master. What does a life well spent look like to you? The most powerful tool you have for a meaningful life is to consciously accept your own death. That's the first principle. Memento Mori, it's Latin for remember you must die. It sounds dark, but the Stoics saw it as a wake-up call, a source of clarity, a source of motivation. In ancient Rome, when a victorious general was parading through the streets, a slave would be there to whisper in his ear, "Remember, you are mortal." That wasn't to ruin the celebration. It was to ground him, to prevent arrogance, to remind him that all glory is fleeting. What matters is how he uses the power he has right then. They turned an uncomfortable truth into a tool for virtue. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, wrote in his private journal, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He didn't write that in despair. He wrote it as a morning meditation, a deliberate practice to sharpen his focus for the day ahead. The point isn't to live in fear, it's to live with intention. The modern world tells us to avoid this thought, to distract ourselves with endless noise. But what if we did the opposite? What if, instead of running from it, we sat with it for a moment? Try this. If you knew with absolute certainty that today was your last day, what would immediately become unimportant? That petty argument from yesterday, the endless scrolling, the worry about what a stranger thinks, the obsession with accumulating more stuff, all of it would fall away. Like dead leaves, and what would rise to the surface? Time with loved ones, that creative project you've been putting off, a walk in the fresh air, a moment of quiet gratitude. Memento Mori isn't about death, it's about life. It's the lens that separates the trivial from the essential. So here's a simple application. Take a moment. Write down one thing, just one thing you would stop doing immediately if you truly internalized this idea. Not someday, right now. It might be a habit. A worry, a time-wasting activity. That act of writing it down is the first step. It's reclaiming that time, redirecting your energy toward what actually matters. This is the foundation. From this clear-eyed acceptance, everything else will flow. What if life being short isn't a flaw, but the main thing about it? That's the second idea, Amor Fati, loving your fate. It's actively embracing whatever happens to you. The good parts, the hard parts, the endings especially. Friedrich Nietzsche took a lot from Stoic thinking, and he called this the highest point a person can reach. Not just enduring what's necessary, but loving it. Seeing the limits, the constraints, the fact that life ends not as curses but as what gives it its shape, what gives it meaning and a kind of deep beauty. A song, for instance, if a song never ended, it would lose all its power. It's having a beginning, a middle, and an end that creates the melody. The silence after is part of the music. Our lives are like that. Epictetus taught that we don't control what happens to us, but we always control what we make of it. He said every event is like raw material handed to a craftsman. Our character is the craft, the setback, the loss, the limitation. Those aren't interruptions to the story. They are the story. They're the material we get to shape a resilient self. So moving from understanding to living it, take a practical case. Say someone has a major career setback, a project they gave everything to fails, or a promotion they wanted goes to someone else. The usual reaction is frustration, a sense of injustice, anxiety. Amor Fati asks for a radical shift. It asks, what if this closed door is necessary? What if this no is saving me from a wrong path, or forcing me to develop skills I've ignored, or pushing me toward something truer I was too comfortable to go after? This isn't pretending it doesn't hurt. It's changing the story from why is this happening to me to what is this happening for me? You accept the event completely. Not with passive resignation, but with an active curiosity. You weave it into your identity. It becomes a chapter in your story that you own, instead of a page you wish you could rip out. So here's a small practice. Look at your life right now. Find one current challenge, one source of friction or disappointment. It could be a personal struggle, a professional hurdle, a persistent worry. Now for a moment, try on this thought. This too is for my good. How does this difficulty strengthen my patience? How does this obstacle clarify what I really want? How does this ending make space for a necessary beginning? That's the alchemy of Amor Fati. It turns the lead of life's inevitable hardships into the gold of purpose. When you stop fighting the boundaries of your existence and start loving them, a deep calm settles in. The scarcity of time stops being a tyrant. It becomes your most honest advisor. Your time and attention are your most valuable currency. The dichotomy of control is the third principle, and it's the practical engine of Stoicism. It's the system that makes everything else work. The core idea is brutally simple. Some things are up to us and some things are not. That's it. What's up to us? Our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our aversions. In short, our own actions. What's not up to us? Our body, our property, our reputation, our position. All that is not our own doing. Epictetus opens his handbook with these lines. He's drawing a bright line around your true arena of power. Everything inside that line, your character and your choices, is where you should invest all your effort. Everything outside that line you meet with acceptance, not with apathy, but with a clear understanding. Fighting the weather is a waste of your life force. Think of social media. The external is the number of likes, the comments, the public perception. That is not up to you. You cannot control how people react. The internal is the reason you posted. Was it to share something meaningful, to express an idea, to connect? That intention, that judgment, that is entirely yours to command. When you tie your sense of worth to the external likes, you hand over your inner peace to strangers. The Stoic redirects that energy inward, to the quality of the work itself, to the integrity of the expression. That is what they control. Take a concrete scenario. Two people are stuck in the same traffic jam. They will be late for an important meeting. The first person white knuckles the steering wheel. They rage at the other drivers. They curse the city planners. Their heart rate spikes. Their morning is ruined. They are pouring all their energy into something they have zero control over, the traffic. The second person takes a deep breath. They acknowledge the situation is outside their command. Then they turn their focus inward. They use the time to listen to an audiobook, or to mentally rehearse their presentation, or simply to observe their own thoughts. They arrive at the same time, but in a completely different state. One has been robbed of 20 minutes of their life. The other has reclaimed it. This is the daily practice of the dichotomy. It's not about becoming passive. It's about becoming strategic. It's about directing your finite energy toward the only battlefield where you can ever truly win or lose, the one within you. So here is an application. Think back over this past week. What were 3 things that caused you significant worry or frustration? write them down, or just hold them in your mind. Now for each one, ask this question: was this thing primarily within my control or outside of it? Was it my judgment and my response, or was it an external event, another person's action, a circumstance I could not change? This simple act of categorization is revolutionary. It shows you with stark clarity where you are investing your life's currency, and it begins the process of withdrawing that investment from futile struggles and depositing it where it will grow, in the mastery of your own mind. The Stoics had this technique, a kind of time travel. They called it Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of difficulties. It's not about expecting disaster. It's a rehearsal, so when something hard happens, you're not surprised. You've already gone down that road in your mind. You know the turns. It takes the sting out of uncertainty. And uncertainty steals so much of our time, we lose the present worrying about what might come. This practice gets that time back. It turns fear into preparation. Seneca wrote about the shortness of life. He was an expert at this. In his letters, he didn't just talk about loss, he practiced it. He'd set aside time to imagine poverty, sickness, exile. He'd picture losing his status, his possessions, all his comforts. Why do that? His answer was simple. By imagining the loss, he stopped fearing the loss. And when the fear was gone, he was no longer a slave to those things. He found that his real self, his character, was still there, even in the worst case. That's the freedom, realizing the flaw you're afraid of is right there, and you can stand on it. It's solid. So how do you use this with time itself? There's an exercise. It takes 2 minutes. Find a quiet moment, close your eyes, and imagine vividly a future opportunity gone, not a vague worry, something specific. That project you keep thinking about. Picture yourself a year from now, having done nothing. The page is blank, the skill isn't learned. Feel that regret, the hollow feeling of time passed but not used. Then make the Stoic turn. Ask yourself, in that future, what would my best self tell me to do right now? Today, the answer is never a big plan. It's always a small action. Write 1 paragraph, make 1 call, study for 1 hour. By visiting that future of regret, you're not creating despair. You're creating a pull, a strong pull back into the present with clarity. This week, try 1 rehearsal. Pick 1 thing you quietly fear, a professional rejection, a personal conflict, or just the sense that more time will slip by. Don't just worry. Schedule 5 minutes. Walk through it deliberately in your mind. See it happening, then focus on 1 question. How would I choose to respond? With courage, with integrity. What good action would still be possible for me, even then? This practice doesn't bring trouble. It drains the fear out of trouble. It shows you ahead of time that you have what you need to handle life's difficulties. And when that fear gets smaller, a lot of energy is freed up. Energy that was spent guarding against phantom futures. Now that energy is free to build a meaningful present. You stop postponing your life. You start living it fully, because you've already seen that the storms won't sink the ship of your character. It stays afloat. Marcus Aurelius gave himself a simple command: stay in the present. This wasn't about feeling calm. It was a strategy for control. The past is just a memory, a story. The future is a guess, a projection. The only place you can ever actually rule is right now. That's the radical practicality of Stoicism. The present isn't a small point between 2 giants. It's the only real ground. Everything you'll ever do happens here. Every change, every connection. Modern science says something similar. Studies on mindfulness show a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. When we're lost in past regrets or anxious about what's coming, we're not living. We're ghosting our own lives. Stoicism was an early system for training attention. It was designed to pull you back from the ghosts of yesterday, the phantoms of tomorrow, to anchor you in what's actually happening. Marcus thought about time like a flowing river. The present is a single, swift current in that endless flow. You can't step into the water that just passed. You can't step into the water that hasn't arrived. You can only stand in the stream right here. Trying to hold the past is like grasping smoke. Straining toward the future is leaning on a shadow. Both leave you off balance. They rob you of the only power you have, which is to act with virtue in this moment. So how do you live this? The modern application is a rebellion against distraction. It's the practice of single tasking, not for productivity, but as a philosophical stance. It means when you're in a conversation, you're fully there. You're listening, not just waiting to speak, not thinking about your reply. It means when you're eating, you taste the food. You notice its texture, its temperature. You're present for the nourishment. This complete engagement is a form of respect. Respect for the person you're with, for the food you're eating, for the life you're living. It reclaims the richness that multitasking promises but always steals. Here's something to try. Sometime soon, notice the drift. Catch your mind when it slips into a past regret. A conversation you wish had gone differently, or feel it leap forward into a future anxiety, a problem that hasn't even happened. When you notice that drift, don't judge it. That just pulls you into the past of a moment ago. Instead, make the gentle choice to return. Anchor yourself in one sensory detail of the now, the feeling of your breath, the specific quality of light in the room, a sound from outside. This simple return to a sensory anchor is the practice. It's you reclaiming the throne of your attention. Each time you do it, you get stronger at dwelling where life actually occurs. You stop paying rent on mental spaces in the past and future. You start fully inhabiting the home of the present. That's where time stops feeling short, because you're finally, completely inside of it. What if you made things a little harder for yourself on purpose? That's the sixth principle, voluntary discomfort. It sounds backwards. We put so much effort into avoiding hardship, into chasing what's easy, but the Stoics saw a problem with too much comfort. It makes you soft, it leaves you vulnerable, it makes the normal bumps in life feel like disasters. So they trained like athletes. They looked for small, manageable hardships on purpose, to build resilience for the big ones, the ones you don't plan for. This is really about your relationship with time, because a life that feels short is often a life spent running. Running from any lack, any delay, any kind of discomfort. Voluntary discomfort teaches you to sit with that lack, to find you're still whole. Musonius Rufus taught Epictetus. He was very direct. He said we should practice poverty sometimes, eat simpler food, wear plainer clothes, sleep on a harder bed, not because those things are good, but because they prove a point to you. They show you your happiness, your core self, doesn't depend on outside conditions. Seneca did this too. He'd set aside days, wear old clothes, eat just bread, and remind himself, this is enough, I am enough. This wasn't about punishing himself. It was a vaccine, a small, controlled dose of the virus to build immunity. So when real loss came, or real difficulty, and it always does, his system wouldn't go into shock. He'd have the inner strength to meet it. Think of it like a muscle. Your comfort muscle is probably very strong. It knows how to find the easy chair, the distraction, the quick pleasure. Your discomfort muscle, the one that lets you endure and persist, that lets you find contentment even when things aren't perfect, that one is likely weak. From not being used, voluntary discomfort is the workout for that muscle. A cold shower first thing in the morning is a classic example now. For those 60 seconds, everything in you screams for the warm, easy option. But you choose the hard one, and when you step out, you haven't just gotten clean. You've done something more important. You've proven to yourself you can choose discipline over impulse. That small victory echoes. It changes your relationship with every other minor hardship. The long line, the boring task, the delayed gratification, they all feel less like threats, more like chances to flex that same muscle. So here's a practical thing to try, a safe challenge, a 24-hour digital detox. From when you wake up until the same time tomorrow, put your phone away. Except for true needs, calls or maps, notice the discomfort, the itch to check, the fear of missing out, the boredom that comes up. That boredom is fertile ground. That's where your mind, starved of easy input, might start to create, to think, to notice the world right in front of you. Or if that feels too big, start with something simpler. For one day, give up one small comfort you rely on. Your morning coffee, the afternoon snack, the constant background music. Pick one and just watch. Watch the desire when it comes up. Watch the stories your mind tells you about why you need it. And watch the quiet space that opens up when you don't give in right away. In that space, time often feels different, slower, more substantial. You're not a passive consumer of comforts anymore. You're an active participant in your own experience. This week, make one conscious choice for voluntary discomfort. It doesn't have to be big, it just has to be intentional. When you do that, you're not making your life poorer. You're running an experiment in freedom. You're learning in your bones that you are more than your comforts. And when you know that, the shortness of life transforms. It stops being a sentence of scarcity. It becomes a clear, open field, and you're not afraid to walk across it anymore, no matter what the weather brings. Picture your life from way up high, 1,000 feet. You see your neighborhood, the streets you drive, just these little patterns. Pull back further. Your whole city becomes a cluster of lights. Your country, just a shape, the whole planet, a blue marble in black space. Now pull back through time. See human history, centuries flowing like a river. Your life, with all its hopes, is a single point of light in that flow. That's the view from above. It's the seventh principle, a mental exercise the Stoics used. To get cosmic perspective, to shrink the anxieties that make life feel frantic. Marcus Aurelius used this all the time. In his private writings, he'd remind himself to look at things from above. He'd think about the cycles of nature, the vastness of the universe, all the generations before and after. He wasn't trying to make life meaningless. He was trying to drain the poison from petty concerns, to see his own struggles, even being emperor, with a kind of peaceful humility. From that height, an insult, a missed deadline, the fear of wasted time, it all looks different. It doesn't vanish, but it finds its proper, small size. The modern world does the opposite. It shrinks our perspective. It magnifies an email, a social comparison, a minor setback until it fills the whole mental sky. The view from above reverses that. It's the ultimate zoom out. It shows you the drama you're in is just one scene in a play that's been running for millennia. This isn't nihilism, it's relief. Realizing the weight you feel isn't the weight of the world, it's the weight you've been carrying in your own mind. So how do you use this? Say you're stressed about a work conflict. A colleague took credit for your idea. You're angry, replaying the conversation all night. Initiate the view, mentally pull the camera up, see your office building from the sky, the city, the continent. Now imagine 100 years from now. That building might be gone, that colleague and you will be part of history. The specific credit for that idea will have dissolved. What remains, what could remain, is how you chose to act. With integrity, with professionalism, focusing on your character, not on winning a small battle. From the cosmic view, the event is a speck, but your choice in response is everything. That's where your power is, or a personal worry. Anxious about a social event, fearing judgment. Apply the view. See the event as one evening in your long life. Your life as one thread in the vast tapestry of human connection. From that distance, does that moment of awkwardness truly define you? Or is it a fleeting shadow that passes, leaving only the memory of your courage for showing up? Here's the prompt. Next time you feel overwhelmed by a deadline, a crisis, that feeling time is slipping, pause for 60 seconds. Close your eyes if you can. Take that step back, visualize the zoom out. See the problem from the ceiling, then the clouds, then the orbit of the moon. See it on the timeline of your life, then on the timeline of history. Breathe into that vast space. When you return, the problem will likely still be there, but you will have changed. You'll see it with new eyes, eyes that understand its true scale. This practice doesn't make your life smaller. It makes your inner world, your capacity for peace, infinitely larger. And from that spaciousness, you can choose your actions not from panic, but from purpose. A journal is a mirror for your soul, and it's a ledger for your time. That's the 8th principle, Stoic journaling. The Greeks had a word for the skill it builds, prosoch. It means attention, but a specific kind, a vigilant, moment-to-moment awareness of your own judgments. Your own actions. Journaling was the daily training ground for that attention. It was how you audited your life, not for productivity, for alignment. Alignment with your deepest values. For a Stoic, a day unexamined was a day where your time could slip away, spent on things that didn't truly matter. Marcus Aurelius left the ultimate example. His book, Meditations, it wasn't a philosophical treatise. It was his private journal, notes to himself, written often at the end of a long day governing an empire. He was practicing prosoch, holding up that mirror, asking himself the hard questions. Did I act with justice today? Did I let a trivial annoyance disturb my peace? Was my time spent in service of my role or my ego? He wasn't seeking praise. He was conducting a review, a quality check on his character. The power of his words comes from that raw honesty. He was holding himself accountable to an ideal, with only his own conscience as the witness. The practice is structured around 3 prompts, designed to turn vague regret into clear direction. The first question is, what did I do well today? This isn't about ego, it's about reinforcement. Find one moment, however small, where you chose virtue, where you showed patience, where you chose diligence over laziness, where you offered kindness without expecting anything back. By naming it, you solidify that pathway. You tell your mind, this is the direction. The second question is, where did I let externals control me? This is the audit of the dichotomy of control. Did I get angry at a traffic jam, handing over my calm to circumstance? Did I waste an hour worrying about a future event I can't change? Did I seek validation from someone else's opinion? This question isn't for self-flagellation, it's for clear-eyed diagnosis. You can't correct a course you don't know you've strayed from. The third question follows. How will I do better tomorrow? This turns insight into intention. Based on today's review, what is one specific adjustment? It might be, when I feel that first spark of irritation, I will take one deep breath before I speak. Or I will dedicate the first 30 minutes of my morning to my most important work before checking any messages. Or I will consciously express gratitude to one person. This question closes the loop. It turns the journal from a record of the past into a blueprint for the future. This week, make a simple commitment. For just 3 nights, set aside 5 minutes before bed. Take a notebook or a note on your phone. Ask yourself these 3 questions. Write down just a sentence or 2 for each. The act of writing is crucial. It moves the thoughts from the swirling chaos of your mind onto the stable page. There you can see them, you can work with them. You are not just writing words. You are building a time capsule of your growth. You are conducting the most important meeting of your day, the one where you counsel yourself. In a life that feels short, this practice creates islands of clarity. It ensures that when you look back, you won't see a blur of busyness. You'll see a deliberate path, marked by your own conscious choices. Each entry is a stitch in the tapestry of a life lived on purpose. Stoicism has this idea that your life isn't just its own separate thing. It's more like a note in a much larger piece of music. That's the 9th principle, Sympatheia. It's this feeling of being connected to everything. The Stoics didn't see the universe as a bunch of separate objects. They saw it as one single living thing. A single organism. They called its rational order the logos, and we're all parts of that. Every person, every animal, every element. We're like cells in a body. Or notes in a song, and this wasn't just poetry for them. It was a practical way to build a life, because if we're all connected, then your well-being is tied to mine. Your suffering affects me. Anything I do ripples out into the whole. Marcus Aurelius, he kept reminding himself of this. He wrote that what doesn't help the hive doesn't help the bee. He saw his job as emperor not as a position of power over people, but as service to this larger organism, the human community. He also thought about what we all share. He'd say we all have the same spark of reason, we all breathe the same air, and we're all here for just a short time. That shared reality, that common fate, it's the real basis for compassion. It makes the ego smaller. When you really feel that connection, so much of what we waste time on just falls away. The need to prove you're better than someone. Resentment over some small insult. All the hours spent crafting a perfect image for other people who are, in the end, just like you, just trying to find their way in a brief life. Sympatheia takes that energy and turns it outward, into duty, into kindness. So how do you live that interconnectedness? It starts with how you see things. Your next interaction with a stranger, the barista making your coffee, the person holding a door, see that moment not as a transaction between two separate selves. See it as a brief, conscious connection between two parts of the same whole. That person has their own struggles, their own story, their own limited time. Your small act of patience, a genuine thank you, a moment of eye contact, that's a recognition. It's you acknowledging the symphony. It's a way of saying, I see you in this. We're in this together. This week you could try something simple. Perform one small, completely anonymous act of kindness. Pay for the coffee of the person behind you in line. Leave a thoughtful note in a library book for the next reader. Pick up a piece of litter in a park. Do it without any need for credit, without any recognition. And as you do it, hold this thought. This action isn't just mine. It's a contribution from one part of the whole back to the whole. It's a stitch in the fabric. That perspective changes the act. It turns something small into something sacred. It gives your brief moment a cosmic context. When you live with Sympatheia, the shortness of life changes meaning again. Your time isn't just yours to spend, it's yours to contribute. And in that contribution, in that conscious connection, you find a meaning that lasts longer than the individual note. You become part of the music itself. A master carpenter focuses on the cut he's making. The whole project depends on that one precise action. Stoicism takes that focus and applies it to every role you have in life. That's the 10th principle, the art of the role. Mastery of a life well spent doesn't come from fantasizing about other times or other identities. It comes from performing your current duty in your current role with complete excellence. Right here, right now, the Stoics had a term for this, kathikonter. It means appropriate actions, the duties that belong to your specific station, as a parent, a worker, a friend, a citizen. These aren't burdens to escape. They're the channels through which you express virtue. They're how you pour your limited time into something meaningful. Epictetus put it plainly. In every affair, he said, consider what precedes and what follows, and then undertake it. Otherwise, you'll begin with spirit, but having not thought through the consequences, you'll give up when difficulties arise. But more importantly, he taught to do only what is up to us, and to do it with all our heart, to let the rest go. That's the ultimate time management. It's not about squeezing more tasks in. It's about bringing your entire being to the one task that is rightly yours in this moment. Consider a parent in the evening. Their workday is over, but their mind is still at the office, replaying conversations, worrying about tomorrow's deadlines. Their body is on the floor playing blocks, but their attention is miles away. The Stoic art of the role asks for a conscious shift. It asks that parent to see this time not as a leftover from the real work, but as the primary work of this hour. The role is parent, the appropriate action is engagement, so they set the phone aside, they get down on the floor, They focus entirely on the tower being built, on the laughter, on the simple story being told. In that focused hour, they're not just playing, they're honoring a fundamental duty, they're building a connection that matters, they're using that slice of time exactly as it was meant to be used. That's excellence in the role. It leaves no room for the anxiety that life is passing you by, because you are utterly immersed in the life that is actually happening. Your mind is where your body is, so here's a reflective prompt. Pause for a moment and name your primary role at this very moment. Are you a student studying? A creator working, a partner listening, a neighbor helping? Now ask yourself this: what would excellence in this role look like for just the next hour? Not for the whole day, not for the lifetime of the role, just for the next 60 minutes. If your role is worker, excellence might mean closing all other tabs and dedicating pure focus to the one report that needs your best thinking. If your role is friend, it might mean listening to someone's story without mentally drafting your reply. Define that excellence in a single, clear intention. Then, for that hour, let the carpenter's focus be your guide. Let the saw cut only the wood in front of you. When your mind drifts to other roles, other times, gently guide it back to this cut, this block, this sentence, this face. This is how you build a life of meaning, not in grand, sweeping declarations, but in a series of perfect cuts, each one done with care in the role you are meant to be playing right now. Stoic tranquility isn't about feeling nothing. It's about not being enslaved by destructive emotions. That's the 11th principle, Apatheia, freedom from the passions. Not passion for your work or love for your family. The Stoics meant something specific: paid, irrational, excessive emotional storms. They hijack your judgment. They sweep you away from the present moment. They make you a passenger in your own life, wasting your most precious resources, time and focus, on internal chaos. Apatheia is the calm harbor you cultivate, so these storms don't dictate your course. Think of your mind as a clear pool of water. A healthy feeling is like a pebble dropped in. It creates ripples, but the water stays clear. You see the event, you feel the feeling, and you respond with reason. A passion, a pathos, is like churning up the mud from the bottom. The whole pool becomes cloudy. You can't see the situation clearly anymore. You react from the cloudiness. Fear of missing out isn't just a slight worry. It's a compulsive refresh of a screen, a frantic scanning for what you might be losing. It pulls you completely out of the room you're physically in. Resentment over a past slight isn't just a memory. It's a recurring mental movie you play, re-spending the emotional currency of that old moment over and over. It robs the present of its peace. These are the passions. They are time thieves. Seneca wrote about this, especially On Tranquility of Mind. He observed we often suffer more in imagination than in reality. We are tortured not by present evils, but by past memories and future anxieties we cling to. He said the mind must be called back, forced to look at the present, made to understand how little we truly need to fear right now. This isn't suppression, it's a disciplined examination. When a wave of anger or anxiety rises, the Stoic practice is to pause, to step back from the feeling and ask, is this a pebble or is this mud? Is this a proportionate response to a real event in front of me? Or is it an old story or a feared future clouding my current reality? Consider that modern ritual of checking social media. You feel a slight twinge of boredom or restlessness. That's the pebble, but then the passion of FOMO takes over. The thought whispers that somewhere, someone is having more fun, achieving more, living a better life, and you must know right now, so you reach for the phone. You scroll for minutes that become an hour. You are not there in your chair in your evening. You are lost in a curated highlight reel of other people's moments. That is a classic pathos. It steals your present to feed a comparison that has no basis in your actual life. Apatheia would be to feel the initial restlessness, acknowledge it, and then choose a different, nourishing action. To read a page of a book, to step outside and look at the sky, to engage in a real conversation with someone nearby. You reclaim your time by refusing to be kidnapped by the passion. So here's a reflective prompt for this principle. Over the next day, become an observer of your own emotional weather. Watch for one feeling that frequently pulls you from the present moment. It might be anxiety about an upcoming meeting that ruins your morning. It might be lingering irritation from a conversation that happened yesterday. When you notice it, don't judge it. Simply label it, see it for what it might be. This is a potential passion. This is the mud being churned. By naming it, you create a sliver of space between the feeling and your reaction. In that space, your freedom resides. You can ask Seneca's question, what part of this is happening right now, and what part is my imagination clinging to the past or future? That simple act of examination is the beginning of cultivating your own Apatheia. It's how you stop paying your life's time as ransom to emotional storms and start dwelling in the calm that makes every moment count. The Discipline of Assent, that's the 12th principle. It's the first of the 3 Stoic disciplines, and it's where everything begins. The world is always throwing impressions at you. A harsh word, a missed bus, a sudden noise, the impression comes first. It's immediate, but the judgment that follows, that's where your freedom is. Assent is that moment of choice. You can accept that first, raw interpretation as truth, or you can pause, you can examine it, that tiny space between the thing and your reaction. That's the birthplace of a meaningful life. It's where you decide, will the next hour be productive action or a spiral of wasted mental energy? Epictetus put it clearly, people aren't disturbed by things but by the views they take of them. So a terse email from a colleague, that's just text on a screen. The event is neutral. The disturbance comes from the judgment you attach. He's being disrespectful. He's undermining me. This is a disaster. Those aren't facts, they're stories. And when you assent to those stories without question, you hand over your inner peace. You give a few lines of text the power to ruin your afternoon, to pull your focus from your work, to steal your time with worry. The discipline of assent is the practice of saying, not so fast. Let me look at this more closely. Think of your mind as a courtroom. Every impression is like a witness making a claim, and you are the judge. You don't just gavel and accept the testimony. You cross-examine it. You ask for evidence. Is this impression telling me the whole truth? What other interpretations are possible? Is this helpful for me to believe right now? This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming discerning. It's about protecting your attention, your most valuable real estate, from intellectual squatters. Here's how it works. You're working on a project and you get that terse email. The initial impression hits, he's angry with me. My work is bad. This is a problem. The old habit is to assent immediately. Your heart rate jumps. You start drafting a defensive reply in your head. You can't focus. The discipline of assent inserts a pause. You take a breath. You examine the witness. Could he just be rushed, typing quickly between meetings? Could the tone be a reflection of his stress, not a judgment on my value? Is there any actual directive in the email I need to address? Or is it just a style I'm interpreting negatively? By withholding immediate assent, you drain the emotional charge. You see the event for what it is, a piece of communication, and not for the catastrophic story you told yourself. You reclaim the mental energy. You can choose a calm, professional response. Or decide it needs no response at all and return to your work. You've saved not just minutes but your entire state of mind. This practice scales to everything. The weather ruins your plans. The initial impression, this day is ruined. Do you assent and spend the hours in frustration fighting the rain? Or do you pause and ask, what good action is still possible within this new constraint? The discipline turns a closed door into a discovered window. It turns lost time into found time. So your challenge, before this day ends, you'll encounter a negative impression. A minor criticism, an inconvenience, a worry. When you feel that initial spark, that tightening in your chest, that's your signal. The courtroom door is swinging open. This time, don't gavel, be the judge, practice the pause, even for 3 seconds. In that space, just ask, is this impression telling me the complete, objective truth? What is one other, more generous or more neutral way to see this? That tiny act of mental sovereignty, that's how you begin to guard your inner citadel. It's how you stop paying your life's currency, your focus and your time as tribute to every passing thought. Master this gate, and you master the landscape of your days. Are you chasing things that won't bring peace even if you get them? That's the 13th principle, the discipline of desire. It's the second Stoic discipline. The antidote to a quiet desperation. The Stoics saw that our unhappiness, this feeling life is short. It rarely comes from a real lack of time. It comes from desire that's pointed the wrong way. We want more time, more status, more possessions, more security. We want beautiful outcomes, but they're outside our command. And when we tie our happiness to those external things, it's perpetual frustration. Because the world is fickle, it doesn't always deliver. The discipline of desire is training to want only what's up to you, to align your deepest wants with nature. And for a Stoic, nature means virtue. It means reason. Epictetus draws the line. Some things are up to us, he says. Some things are not. Our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our aversions. Whatever is our own doing, that's our domain, our body, our property, our reputation, our position. Whatever is not our own doing, that's not our domain. This discipline asks you to move all your emotional investment from that second column into the first, to desire not the promotion, but to do promotable work with excellence. Not the praise, but to act in a praiseworthy way. Not more time, but to use the time you have with purpose. It's a radical reorientation. Your peace is no longer held hostage by the world's approval. Your worth isn't tied to an outcome you can only influence, not control. Take the desire for a promotion. It's a common goal, but if you look closely, it's a bundle of external factors. A committee's decision, the company's budget, the politics of the moment, even your own past performance is now in the past. It's an external fact. To tie your happiness to that bundle is to build your house on sand. The discipline of desire asks you to unpack that want, to separate the external prize from the internal action. So instead of desiring the promotion, you cultivate the desire to work with integrity today. To solve problems creatively, to support your colleagues, to master your craft. Those are desires within your power. You can fulfill them this hour, and if the promotion comes, it's a preferred outcome, but not the source of your contentment. If it doesn't come, your core desire to act with virtue has still been satisfied. You haven't wasted time chasing a phantom. You've invested it in building your character. This discipline turns scarcity into abundance. When you desire only what's within your control, you enter a state of instant gratification, not of pleasure but of fulfillment. You want to be courageous, you can act with courage in the next difficult conversation. You want to be wise, you can choose to learn from a mistake right now. You want to be just, you can treat the next person you meet with fairness. These desires are immediately actionable. They're not waiting on a future date or a bank account or someone else's permission. They are the currency of a rich life, and you are the mint. So here's a prompt. Before this day ends, take a quiet moment. Bring to mind one specific desire that's been occupying your thoughts. Maybe a result at work, a change in a relationship, a material possession. Now do the Stoic unpacking. Ask, what part of this desire is for an external outcome I don't fully control? And what part is for an internal virtue I can cultivate regardless? Then make the conscious shift. Write it down or state it to yourself, your new, realigned desire. Not I desire that promotion, but I desire to bring my full focus to my key project today. Not I desire their approval, but I desire to speak my truth with kindness. This mental rewriting isn't a denial of your goals. It's the reclamation of your power. It's how you stop chasing shadows and start living in the substance of your own choices. When your desires are aligned with nature, with what's truly yours to command, the shortness of life stops being a sentence of lack. It becomes the condition. For a focused, meaningful existence, a deeply peaceful one, the 14th principle is the discipline of action. It's the third discipline, the final one. It completes the circle. You've worked on your judgments, on your desires, and now where does that go? It has to go outward into action. For the Stoics, virtue wasn't a private thing. It was social. To be a good person is to be a good citizen of the human community. So your limited time, it finds its deepest purpose there, in service to that common good. Your brief life becomes a thread in a larger fabric. Marcus Aurelius, he wrote about this constantly. In his private notes, he said, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." He saw his power, his role as emperor, not as a trophy, but as a duty, a tool for stewardship, to act with justice, with fairness, for the welfare of all. Every decision he made, from matters of state down to how he spoke to a servant, it went through that filter. Would this help the whole? This discipline, it takes ordinary moments and makes them expressions of a life. It asks you to see your daily actions not as isolated events, but as contributions to the health of your small part of the world. Take a simple situation. You're at work, you have a tight deadline on your own project, and a colleague asks for help. They're struggling with some software. The old calculation is pure self-interest. Helping costs me 15 minutes I don't have, it sets me back, but the discipline of action reframes it. You're not just an individual worker, you're part of a team. A small community with a shared goal. The right action, the virtuous one, is to offer help, not for credit, but because it strengthens the whole. It builds cooperation. It builds trust. That 15 minutes isn't lost, it's an investment. In the common good of your workplace, your action in that moment aligns with justice and kindness. It gives that slice of your day a weight, a meaning beyond just a task. It becomes a micro-fulfillment of your role as a citizen. And this scales to everything. Listening patiently to a friend in distress when you could rush off, taking time to separate recycling properly, not out of fear, but as a duty to the community of people who share this planet. Voting in a local election after you've learned about the issues. These aren't grand, heroic deeds. They're quiet, consistent actions from a person who understands they're connected. This is how you spend your currency of time, in a way that pays dividends to the world around you. So the prompt for this principle, look at your coming day. Find one specific, small opportunity to do something that serves the common good. It could be offering genuine encouragement to someone who's discouraged. It could be picking up a piece of litter on your walk. It could be choosing to buy from a local business instead of a big corporation. Choose one, and when you do it, hold this thought. I'm not just doing a thing, I'm fulfilling my duty as part of something larger. I'm using this moment to strengthen the hive. In that conscious shift, your relationship with time deepens again. You're not just spending it, you're contributing it, and a life spent in contribution, however brief, carries a resonance that lasts. The Stoics had this principle. Objective representation. It was a tool, a way to call things exactly what they were, an application of their discipline of assent. The idea is we layer stories onto reality. The Stoics called these impressions Fantaisiae, and that's where most of our suffering comes from, most of our wasted time. You don't just see a missed deadline. You see a catastrophe, a personal failure, a chain reaction of doom. This practice is about cutting through that, describing an event in plain terms. Like a scientist watching a neutral event, you take out the value labels, the judgments, the emotional charge. You see the bare event, and from that clear seeing, a rational response can actually happen. Marcus Aurelius used this constantly. In his journal, he'd remind himself to break things down, see things for what they are in themselves. He'd look at a fancy meal, call it the dead body of a fish. He'd look at a purple robe, call it the hair of a sheep dyed with shellfish blood. This wasn't cynicism, it was a drill. A drill to see past the glamour, past the social meaning we attach, to see the fundamental, simple reality. He did this with events too. A setback wasn't an unfair tragedy. It was a rearrangement of circumstances. An insult wasn't a devastating blow. It was just sounds from another person's moving tongue. By describing it plainly, he drained its power. He saved his mental energy for what mattered, his own response. You can apply this to the feeling that haunts you. The sense time is running out, you're working. The clock is ticking, the internal story starts. I'm running out of time. This is a disaster. I'll never finish. Notice the labels there. Disaster, never. Fail, those are judgments, not facts. They create a panic that clouds your thinking, makes you less efficient, wastes the very time you're afraid of losing. Objective representation interrupts that. You pause, you state the facts, only the facts. The clock shows 4 p.m. My report is due at 5. I have 60 minutes. The report is half finished. That's it. No drama, just data. From that calm baseline, you can make a clear decision. You can assess what's essential. Focus your effort. Communicate if you need to. The anxiety gets sidelined. Your mind is free to solve the actual problem in the actual time you have. This works for any stressor. Instead of saying my life is going nowhere, try the objective version. I am 35. I work in sales. I have an interest in writing I haven't acted on. See the difference? The first is a heavy story. The second is neutral facts. A plan can be built from that. Instead of they all hate me, try this. Person A didn't reply to my message. Person B seemed distracted today. The first is a global verdict. The second is specific data. Data you can work with or choose to release. So here's a prompt. Bring to mind one current source of anxiety, something that feels like it's stealing your peace or your time, a work problem, a relationship tension, a financial worry. Now perform the reduction. Strip away every judgmental word, every emotional label, every prediction of doom. Reduce it to 3 or 4 simple statements. Factual, observable statements. What is actually happening right now? In the plainest terms, write that down. The act of writing forces clarity. It moves the phantom from the emotional into the practical. And once it's there as a simple set of facts, you often find the monster was mostly shadow. The time you spent fearing it becomes time you can use to address it, or to move past it. That's how you reclaim your present from the stories in your mind. Do your best and let go of the rest. That's the common advice. But the Stoic version is different. It's deeper. It's not passive. It's a dual commitment. This is the 16th principle, the Stoic reserve clause. It means you act with your full effort, and internally you reserve acceptance for any outcome. You engage with time. You pour your energy into a goal. But you do not let your peace be shattered by a result you can't control. The ancient Stoics would attach a simple phrase to any plan, fate permitting. In Latin, Deo volent, it was a mental footnote, a quiet acknowledgement woven right into their ambition. It said, I will strive for this with all my heart. But I also understand the world has its own currents. This clause is the bridge between intense action and serene acceptance. It's how you run the race without tying your self-worth to the finish line. Seneca explored this. He wrote that we should always prepare for our plans to go awry, even as we pursue them wholeheartedly. He advised setting our hopes and our fears on a short leash. We must go after what we desire, he said, while simultaneously telling ourselves, I will also accept something different if that is what occurs. This isn't about expecting failure. It's about removing the condition for your inner stability. Your happiness is not placed on the other side of that goalpost. It remains with you in your effort, in your character as you walk the path. Think of a job interview. You prepare meticulously. You research the company. You practice your answers. You choose your clothes with care. You give the interview your full focus and presence. That is the action, the part within your control. The reserve clause is the quiet thought you hold alongside it. You mentally acknowledge that the final hiring decision depends on budgets, internal politics, the needs of the team, another candidate's specific experience. 100 factors outside your command. You do your best and you let the rest be what it is. This mental posture changes everything. It frees you from desperate energy. It allows you to be present, confident, authentic, because you are not clinging to the outcome for your sense of worth. If you get the offer, you receive it with gratitude, not with a desperate gasp of relief. If you don't, you are disappointed but not destroyed. You can learn from the experience and move forward without your time being consumed by rumination. Apply this to any goal you're pursuing right now, a creative project you're launching, a fitness target, a difficult conversation you need to have. Do the work. Give it your sincere, focused effort. That is your domain, and in a quiet corner of your mind, add the reserve clause. State it to yourself. I will do this to the best of my ability, fate permitting. I will accept the outcome, whatever it may be. This simple internal sentence is a shield. It protects your present moment from being hijacked by future anxiety. It allows you to use your time fully, not as a ransom payment for a specific result, but as an expression of your values. Your effort is the masterpiece. The outcome is merely the frame it arrives in. When you live with this clause, you stop postponing your life, waiting for external validation to begin. You are already living it completely in the action itself. You lose your possessions, you lose your status, you lose your body. The only thing you truly own is your character. That's the 17th principle. In a short life, everything external is borrowed. It's on loan. The world will call it back. Your reputation fades. Your achievements get surpassed. Your wealth changes hands. But the person you became through your choices, the quality of your soul, that's the one piece of luggage you carry all the way to the end. For the Stoics, this was the entire point. Virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, temperance wasn't just a nice idea. It was the only true good, the only thing of enduring value. Because it's the only thing that's entirely yours, irrevocably yours. Death can take your breath, but it can't take the courage you showed with it. It can take your voice, but it can't take the truth you spoke. This focus turns the scarcity of time into a forge. Every moment becomes an opportunity to temper your character, to make it a little stronger, a little wiser, a little more just. Epictetus used an analogy. He said your body is just a clay pot, fragile, temporary, easily broken, but your faculty of choice, your proherses, that's something sacred. That's your inner citadel, your true self. You are not your handsome pot or your cracked pot. You are the potter, the one who decides how to use the clay you've been given for however long you have it. When you internalize this, how you spend your hours shifts. It's no longer about accumulating more clay or decorating the outside of the pot for others to admire. It's about the skill of the potter, the strength of the hand, the intention behind the shape. Consider 2 ways to spend an hour. One person spends it complaining online about a minor inconvenience, feeding resentment, strengthening pathways of victimhood. Another person spends that same hour reading a challenging book, or in quiet reflection, or practicing patience with a difficult task. The first activity weakens the potter's hand. It makes the character more brittle. The second activity is like a workout for the soul. It builds the muscle of wisdom. It fortifies the inner citadel. Both people had the same 60 minutes, but one invested it in the only lasting legacy. The other spent it on emotional ephemera that will leave no trace. So the prompt for this principle is this: what one quality of character do you most want to strengthen with the time you have left? Is it patience, so you meet delays with calm? Is it courage so you speak up when it's easier to stay silent? Is it integrity so your private actions match your public words? Choose one, just one. And for the next week, see your daily interactions as the training ground for that quality. When you're stuck in line, that's patience practice. When you face a hard truth, that's courage practice. When no one is watching, that's integrity practice. This is how you build a legacy that isn't written in stone, but woven into the fabric of your being. It's the one thing you get to keep. What if you didn't own your life? You were just its custodian for a little while. That's the 18th principle. Gratitude for the loan of life. The Stoics looked at it through physics. Everything is on loan: your body, your talents, your relationships, the breath in your lungs. All of it is borrowed from nature, and all of it goes back. That's not a morbid thought, it's a clarifying one. When you see your time as a temporary gift, not something you own, gratitude becomes your default. You stop feeling entitled to more days. You start feeling thankful for this one. Marcus Aurelius began his meditations with that. He wrote, "When you wake up, think of what a privilege it is. To be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." He saw each day as a gift from existence itself, a new chance to practice the virtues he cared about. To act with justice, to contribute, to learn. Whether the day was easy or hard, that wasn't the main point. The gift was the chance to engage with it. To use the loaned materials of his life well, that shifts your relationship with time, from scarcity to abundance. You're not counting down diminishing days. You're receiving each one as it comes with a sense of wonder and responsibility. As the custodian of this borrowed life, your job isn't to hoard it. It's to use it wisely, to improve the estate, so to speak, before you hand it back. There's a practical application, a morning ritual. It takes less than a minute. When you wake up, before you check a phone or let the worries in, just pause, lie still for a moment, and mentally offer thanks, not for anything specific you want to get, but for the simple fact of another day. You could say to yourself, or just feel it, "Thank you for this day, for this chance to breathe, to think, to act. I will use it well." That sets a tone of stewardship. It frames the coming hours not as a burden to manage, but as a canvas you've been given. When challenges come, and they will, this foundational gratitude helps. You meet them not as personal affronts, but as part of the textured experience of the loan. The difficult customer, the traffic jam, the unexpected bill. These aren't thefts from your entitled peace. They're elements of the custodial duty. Your task is to meet them with the character you're here to cultivate. So here's a reflective prompt. For one full day, practice this custodian mindset. From the moment you wake, remind yourself, "I am a temporary caretaker of this life, this body, this time." See your possessions not as things you own, but as tools loaned to you for a period. See your relationships as temporary connections you're privileged to tend. Notice how that changes your attitude. Does a minor inconvenience feel lighter? Does a beautiful moment feel more poignant? Do you feel a greater urge to use your hours on what matters, knowing the loan will be called in? This practice doesn't diminish your life, it sanctifies it. It turns ordinary time into a sacred trust, and in that trust you find the deepest motivation to live it fully while you have it. The Stoics had this figure they called the sage. It was their North Star, an imaginary person, perfectly rational, who lived with complete wisdom and self-control. They knew no human could ever actually be this person. That wasn't the point. It was a compass. In a life full of choices, it gave a direction. When you're faced with a difficult decision or some distraction, you can ask one question. What would the sage do with this hour? That question cuts through the noise. It gets past all the little justifications. It points toward the right action, the right use of your time. Marcus Aurelius was always doing this, comparing his own thoughts to this ideal. Not to feel bad, to correct his course. He'd write notes asking himself if what he was about to do was worthy of a wise person, or if it was just fear or passion talking. The sage was his benchmark, a tool for comparison. It lifted his gaze from immediate gratification to the long-term shape of his character. Take procrastination. You have something important to do and it's uncomfortable. Your mind offers easier things. Check the news, scroll through something, reorganize your desk. In that moment, you pause, you invoke the sage. What would the perfectly wise person do with this hour? The answer is usually clear. The sage would see the value of the task. They'd understand that avoiding discomfort now just builds a bigger burden of regret later. They would set the distraction aside and begin, not frantically. With calm, focused diligence, they'd use the hour as it was meant to be used. Asking the question doesn't make you the sage. It just aligns your next action with the direction the sage would go. You're choosing the path of wisdom, even for one small step. This works with conflict too. Someone says something hurtful. The immediate reaction is to lash out to defend yourself. Pause, ask what the sage would do. The sage, with perfect understanding, would see the other person is probably acting from their own pain or ignorance. The sage would respond from calm strength, not wounded pride, maybe with a question or silence or a firm, kind boundary. The goal isn't to be a doormat. It's to act from principle, not from reaction, to spend your energy on building understanding, not burning bridges. So the challenge is this: before today ends, you'll face some minor decision. A moral choice, a temptation to waste time, a spark of irritation. When that moment comes, consciously ask the question, what would the sage do? Let the ideal, however distant, light up your next move. You don't need a grand gesture, just make the next right choice, the one that aligns with wisdom, not with whim. Each time you do that, you strengthen the muscle of virtue. You train yourself to spend your hours not as a passive recipient of circumstance, but as an active architect of a life that, in its own small way, leans toward the light. Seneca's words still land, even now. Life is long enough, he said, if you know how to use it, but we feel this strange poverty of time. We're busy, always moving, and yet it feels like our lives are just slipping away. That's the 20th principle, the poverty of wealth and the wealth of time. Stoicism does this radical audit. It asks what true wealth really is. It's not an overflowing schedule. It's not a pile of possessions. It's sufficiency. It's having the leisure to think, to reflect, to connect with what gives life depth. The modern world often says busyness equals worth. A full calendar is a badge of importance, but from the Stoic view, a life crammed with activity and empty of reflection is a poor life. It's a life spent accumulating the currency of hurry while you bankrupt the soul. Seneca saw this in his own time. In his letter on the shortness of life, he wrote about people busy doing nothing of real value. They're engrossed in other people's business, chasing trivial ambitions, filling their days with tasks that leave no mark on their character. He called it being industrious in idleness. They're poor, he argued, in the only wealth that counts. The wealth of a well-ordered mind, a purposeful existence. Their time, which is their life, is spent like it's an infinite resource, when it's the most finite thing they have. You can think of two ways to structure a day. The first schedule is a mosaic of obligation, back-to-back meetings, a constant stream of notifications. Errands that bleed into evenings of passive consumption, scrolling through other people's curated moments. The day ends with exhaustion, but not fulfillment. A vague anxiety stays, the sense that something important was missed. The second schedule has blank spaces. It holds deliberate blocks for reflection. For reading a challenging book, for a long walk without a podcast, for a single, focused session of deep work on something that matters to you, this schedule looks less impressive on the surface. It might even seem lazy to an outside eye obsessed with visible productivity, but it's rich in the Stoic sense. It cultivates the inner wealth of clarity, purpose, and peace. The practical shift is from addition to subtraction. It's not about adding more productivity hacks to cram more in. It's about removing the activities that create the illusion of wealth while they create real poverty of spirit. So the reflective prompt for this principle: sometime in the next 24 hours, open your calendar or just review your mental list for the coming week. Find one busy activity you have scheduled that, if you're honest, serves mostly to create noise, not meaning. It might be a habitual meeting with no clear agenda. It might be an hour typically lost to aimless browsing. It might be saying yes to a social obligation out of guilt, not genuine desire. Identify that one item. Then make the conscious Stoic choice to eliminate it, to reclaim that hour, and deliberately dedicate that reclaimed time to something that nourishes your character. Use it for 10 pages of a philosophical book. Use it to write in your journal. Use it to have a meaningful conversation with someone you care about. This single act of editing your life is a declaration of true wealth. It's you stating with your time that your inner development is the most valuable investment you can make. The obstacle isn't in the way. The obstacle is the way. That's the 21st principle. It's the Stoic turn. It's a shift in perception. It takes what feels like a delay or a failure or lost time, and it turns that from a roadblock into the road itself. The Stoics didn't just endure hardship, they engaged with it. They saw each one as a specific opportunity, a tailor-made chance to exercise a different virtue, a chance to build the character that makes a life meaningful. Marcus Aurelius gave a metaphor for this. He wrote that a blazing fire makes fuel of everything thrown into it. A small flame gets smothered by a log, but a great fire welcomes that same log. It consumes it. It uses it to burn brighter. Your perception is the difference. The difference between a smothered flame and a roaring blaze. The event itself is just the log. It's neutral. Your judgment, your choice of how to see it, that's what determines whether it extinguishes your spirit or fuels your growth. Take patience. A traffic jam isn't a theft of your time. It's an invitation. It's a drill to practice patience. The world hands you a log. You can let it smother your calm. Fill the car with frustration, or you can add it to your inner fire. Use the forced pause to listen to something, to observe your own thoughts, to just breathe and accept the moment. That choice in that log of an obstacle is where your character gets forged, or creativity. A project budget gets cut. The obvious path is blocked. The easy reaction is to see it as a failure. To give up, the Stoic turn is to see it as raw material for a new kind of success. The obstacle becomes the way. It forces you to think more resourcefully, to innovate, to find a simpler solution you'd never have seen with a full budget. The constraint isn't the enemy of creativity. It's its necessary partner. History gives an example. Seneca, he was a powerful advisor in Rome, wealthy, a celebrated writer. Then suddenly he was exiled, sent to Corsica, a remote, rugged island. By any standard measure, his life was over. His career, his influence, his comfort, all gone. That was the log thrown onto his fire. He could have let it smother him. He could have dwelt in bitterness for the 8 years he was there. Instead, he chose to make it fuel. In exile, he wrote some of his most enduring works. He turned his loneliness and hardship into letters and essays, writings that have comforted millions for 2,000 years. He used the obstacle, the very fact of his removal from ordinary life, to deepen his philosophy. To secure his legacy, the exile wasn't an interruption to his life's work. It became the crucible for its most lasting contribution. So the prompt for this principle is direct. Look at your life right now. Identify one current obstacle. It might be a professional setback, a strained relationship, a health challenge, a goal that feels out of reach. Now perform the Stoic turn. Reframe that obstacle, not as a barrier to your good life, but as the specific training ground for a virtue you need to strengthen. If the obstacle is a difficult person, it's your training ground for compassion. If it's a financial limitation, it's your drill for resourcefulness. If it's a failure, it's your classroom for resilience. Name the virtue, write it down, then for 1 week, approach that obstacle with one question in mind. How can I use this exact situation to practice patience, or courage, or creativity today? This mental shift doesn't make the problem disappear. It changes you in the presence of the problem. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance. You start seeing yourself as an athlete in the gym of life, where the heaviest weights build the strongest character. The obstacle ceases to be something in your way. You begin to walk directly upon it, using its rough surface for traction, moving forward on the very path it provided. The 22nd principle is the unity of life and philosophy. For the Stoics, wisdom wasn't a theory. It was the art of living. It was the craft of using your limited time with purpose. And the measure of a philosophy wasn't in the elegance of its arguments. It was in the quality of the life it produced, a life of peace, of courage, a life that felt long enough because it was lived deeply. This unity was non-negotiable. To know what is good and not to do it, that was the ultimate failure, a waste of the very reason you were given. Epictetus was famously impatient with people who treated philosophy as a performance. He said, if you didn't want to be cured, why did you come here? He saw students who could quote doctrines but whose lives were still ruled by fear. He had contempt for that. You don't learn philosophy to talk about it at a dinner party. You learn it to cure your soul, to heal your fears about loss and time and death, and the proof of the cure is in your actions. In how you handle disappointment, in how you treat people who annoy you, in what you do with an unexpected hour of free time. The words are just the prescription. The living is the medicine. Take Memento Mori, remembering you must die. It's a powerful concept, but if it stays only as a concept, it's useless. It's just a morbid thought. The unity of life and philosophy demands that idea walk off the page and into your choices. So how does that look on a Tuesday afternoon? You have a free hour. You could spend it scrolling through social media, a passive activity that leaves you feeling emptier. Or you could recall Memento Mori. That awareness made practical asks a direct question. Is this how I want to spend a precious hour of my one and only life? That question leads to action. You close the app. You call a family member you've been meaning to connect with. You open the notebook and write the first page of that story. The philosophy has just moved from your head to your hands. It has changed the texture of your day. Or consider the obstacle being the way. You can understand it intellectually, but the unity principle asks for more. It asks you to apply it the next time a real obstacle appears. Your computer crashes, losing an hour of work. The theoretical understanding says this is a chance to practice patience. The lived philosophy is what you do next. Do you slam the desk and spiral into frustration? Or do you take a deep breath, acknowledge the setback, and begin again with calm focus? The philosophy is validated not by your ability to explain it, but by your ability to enact it under pressure. So the prompt for this principle is direct. Look back over the ideas we've explored, from Memento Mori to Amor Fati, from the view from above to the discipline of action. Choose one, just one Stoic idea that resonated with you. Now make this unity real. Before this day ends, perform one concrete action, however small, that puts that idea into practice. If you chose the discipline of assent, the next time a negative impression arises, pause and examine it before you react. If you chose gratitude for the loan, take 2 minutes before bed to mentally thank existence for one specific moment from your day. If you chose the art of the role, dedicate your next hour of work with complete, undivided excellence in that role. Don't just think about it, do it. The action is the philosophy. It is the point where wisdom stops being a spectator sport and becomes the very ground you walk on. This is how you build a life that isn't just thought about but lived. A life where your time isn't separate from your principles but is their continuous expression. A river doesn't hold onto the rock it went by yesterday. That's the idea. The 23rd principle is about flowing like that, letting go of what's already past. The Stoics saw time as a current. It only moves one way. What's behind you is gone. It's outside your reach to cling to it, to let a regret or some old memory anchor you in water that's already moved on. That's going against nature. You waste the energy of this moment, the only moment you're actually in, on a ghost. You're trying to command a current that's already reached the sea. Marcus Aurelius kept coming back to this. In his private notes, he'd remind himself the past is nothing. It's gone. It only has power if you keep giving it your attention. He wrote, "Don't picture your whole life at once. Don't dwell on all the troubles you've had or the ones still to come. Just ask right now, what in this can't I bear?" His focus was like a blade. It cut through the weight of all that history to find the simple reality of now. The past, whether it was a great success or a painful failure, is just a story now. A story you tell yourself, and you can edit that story, not the facts but the meaning you give them. A past mistake doesn't have to be a permanent stain. It can be the lesson that taught you resilience. A loss isn't a theft, it's what cleared space for something new. This isn't denial, it's a practical choice. To stop paying interest on a debt life has already written off. So how do you practice that flow? There's a simple ritual. Take a piece of paper, write down one specific regret. One missed chance, one harsh word, one path you didn't take. Be specific. Then destroy that paper. Tear it up, burn it safely, or just crumple it and throw it away. As you do it, say to yourself, "This is the past. It's outside my control. I let it go now." This act is a symbol, but symbols have power. They give form to something inside. They mark a change. By physically discarding the paper, you're performing a ceremony for your own mind. You're declaring you won't carry that particular rock in your current of thought anymore. The reflective prompt goes a step further. After that ritual, or even without it, find a quiet moment. Speak a sentence of forgiveness to yourself for that one specific thing. Say it out loud. "I forgive myself for not taking that chance. I forgive myself for my part in that conflict. I forgive myself for the time I wasted." Then add the Stoic clause. "That event is now outside my sphere of control." By saying that forgiveness, you're not saying the action was okay. You're saying you release its claim on your present attention. You choose to stop letting that old story rent space in your mind. Space that could be used for creation, for connection, for peace. When you do this, you start to feel the current move again. The stagnation of regret gives way to the momentum of now. You're not a statue in the river looking upstream anymore. You are the river, flowing forward. Clear, carrying only what you need for what's ahead. The Stoics wanted to build a kind of fortress inside themselves, a place where the shortness of life couldn't cause panic. That's the 24th principle, cultivating your inner citadel. It's the whole point of all this practice, not to control time, but to make a space inside you that time can't shake. A space of peace built brick by brick from your own character and reason. External events will always happen. Deadlines will loom, plans will fall apart. Years will pass, but inside this citadel, you're the sovereign. The noise outside the walls is just noise. It doesn't dictate your inner state. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this all the time. He talked about retreating into his own mind. He said there's a quiet place inside you, a retreat you can enter anytime. He called it your own ruling center. For him, this wasn't an escape from duty. It was the source of his strength to do it. From that inner quiet, he could meet the chaos of an empire, the pressures of leadership. His own mortality, not with fear but with steady resolve. The citadel isn't a place for hiding, it's a place for grounding. It's where you remember who you are. Beyond the roles you play, beyond the time you have left, this fortress isn't built in a day. It's built through the consistent use of every principle we've talked about. Memento Mori lays the foundation, the deep bedrock of what matters. The disciplines of assent, desire, and action raise the walls. They teach you what to let in and what to keep out. Practices like the view from above create the high towers. They give you perspective. Voluntary discomfort tempers the gates. Every time you choose reason over reaction, you add another stone. Every moment of gratitude for the loan of life reinforces the mortar. So what does using this citadel look like now, in a modern moment of pressure? Imagine you're facing a tight deadline. The clock is ticking loudly in your mind. Your heart rate climbs. The old story of panic starts. I'm out of time. This is a disaster. This is the moment to retreat. Not by running away, but by turning inward. You pause. You take one conscious, deep breath, feeling the air fill your lungs and leave. In that pause, you invoke the dichotomy of control. You ask, what here is truly up to me, my focus, my next action, my choice to work with calm diligence. These are within the walls, the ticking clock. The ultimate outcome, the judgment of others, these are outside. By mentally drawing that line, you step back inside your fortress. The panic is left at the gate. From this place of inner calm, you can now use the time you have. You can use it with far greater effectiveness. The anxiety wasn't helping you work faster. It was slowing you down. The citadel restored your clarity. Your inner citadel is your most personal refuge. It will feel different for everyone. For some, it's a sense of expansive quiet. For others, it's a feeling of solid, unbreakable strength. For another, it might be a warm, steady light. So here's a reflective prompt to help you connect with yours. In a few words, how would you describe the feeling of your inner citadel when you're most at peace? Is it a still lake, a deep forest, a strong oak tree? A quiet library? Find your own metaphor. Write that description down. Keep it simple. That word or phrase is now your anchor. The next time you feel time's pressure mounting, or any external storm brewing, you can recall that phrase. You can take that one breath and remember you have a place to go, a place that no clock can ever take from you. Remembering you'll die changes how you live, and remembering others will die changes how you love. That's the 25th principle, the mortality of others. It's the final, essential extension of Memento Mori. You take that powerful personal awareness and you turn it outward, toward every person you know. They're temporary too. Their time here is just as brief, just as precious, and this knowledge isn't meant to bring sadness. It's meant to be a call to kindness. An urgent, practical reason to act with patience now, to act with forgiveness, to express appreciation now, not someday, today, because someday is a story we tell ourselves. And time isn't listening. The Stoics understood this. They saw that most of our relational strife is built on forgetting that simple fact. We hold onto grudges as if we have forever to resolve them. We postpone expressing love, assuming there will be a better moment. We prioritize being right over being kind because we feel we have the luxury of time. Time to win an argument, but when you hold the awareness that this person, like you, is here for only a short while, those priorities dissolve. Petty conflicts reveal their true size. They're tiny grains of sand in the hourglass of a shared, fleeting existence. Seneca wrote about this in his letters on friendship. He urged his readers to love friends as if one day we would hate them. That sounds strange, but his point was profound. Life is unpredictable. Friends can become estranged. So, he said, we must enjoy them, appreciate them. Mend any quarrels without delay. We must live with them as if they could be taken from us at any moment, because they can. And this isn't morbid foresight. It's the deepest form of respect. It honors the reality of their life and the reality of your limited time together. Think of a common tension. A family member says something that hurts you. The old pattern is to retreat, to stew in silence, to wait for an apology that may never come. You tell yourself you'll address it when the time is right. But the Stoic, holding the mortality of others in mind, sees this differently. That silence is borrowed time you may not get back. That grudge is a weight you choose to carry through days that are already numbered. So the virtuous action becomes clear. Have the difficult conversation, not to win but to understand, not to be right but to reconnect. You do it not because the conflict is comfortable, but because the relationship is precious. Because you may not get another chance to clear the air, this awareness turns procrastination into purpose. It turns avoidance into courage, and the application can be simple. It doesn't always require a heavy conversation. More often, it calls for a simple expression of gratitude that we put off for no good reason. That mentor who changed your path. The friend who listened during a hard time. The partner who shows up every day. We think they know how we feel. We assume we'll tell them later. The principle of mortality says, tell them now. Send the message, make the call, say the words. Don't let the appreciation stay locked inside you, where it does no one any good. Give it as a gift while you both are here to share it. So here's a prompt, and it's an action. Before this day is over, choose one person, someone you appreciate or someone you need to make peace with. Send them a message. It doesn't need to be long or perfect. It just needs to be true. Write a few sincere sentences of thanks, or extend an olive branch to heal a quiet rift. Do it today, not because it's convenient, but because it is necessary. Because this small act is how you honor the fleeting, beautiful fact of their existence. And in doing that, you redeem your own time from the prison of delay. You turn the awareness of an ending into the engine of connection. All these practices lead to one end. To live in agreement with nature. That's the 26th principle, the macro purpose, the final synthesis. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, defined this as the goal of life. His successor, Cleans, said it was to live in accordance with nature, to conduct yourself in all affairs with reason. It sounds grand, but the meaning is practical. It means to accept your place in the universe, to see your brief, mortal life not as a random accident, but as a small, conscious part of a vast, rational whole. The logos, and to play your part well, with reason, with virtue, with a sense of belonging to the human community. When you do that, your life becomes coherent. It becomes a note that fits the song. So how do we see this agreement in action? It's the sum of everything we've explored. Accepting your mortality with Memento Mori, that's agreement with the nature of life. A life that has a beginning and an end. Practicing Amor Fati, loving your fate, is agreement with the events nature sends your way. Focusing on the present moment is agreement with the only slice of time that actually exists. Using the disciplines of assent, desire, and action, that's how you bring your own inner nature, your reason, into harmony with external nature. Acting with justice and kindness is agreement with your social nature. Your role as a citizen of the world. Every principle is a different facet of this single goal, to align your will with the way things are and to contribute your best to it. Imagine a day lived in full agreement with nature. It begins with the morning reflection. You wake and feel gratitude for the loan of another day. You remember your mortality, not with dread, but as a focusing lens for your intentions. You set your desires only on what is within your control, your efforts, your attitudes, your actions. As you move through your tasks, you meet each obstacle not as a frustration, but as the raw material for practicing patience or ingenuity. In your interactions, you see others as fellow temporary travelers. You choose kindness over pettiness, understanding over judgment. You perform your roles, worker, parent, friend, with focused excellence. Not for applause, but because it is the right action for the common good. When negative impressions arise, you examine them before assenting. You see events for what they are, not the stories you layer on them. And in the evening, you review the day. You note where you aligned with nature and where you drifted. You forgive the missteps and solidify the intentions for tomorrow. That day, from start to finish, was a life in miniature, a life lived in agreement. It was not a life free of difficulty, but it was a life of profound peace and purpose. Because every moment was used, not just spent, but invested in the only project that ultimately matters, the cultivation of a self that fits harmoniously within the grand scheme. So as we bring this to a close, here is a final, reflective prompt. Look at your plans for tomorrow, not in detail, but in spirit. Ask yourself this single question. Are these plans, in their essence, in agreement with nature by Stoic standards? Does your schedule honor your mortal limits, or does it pretend you have endless time? Do your goals align with what you can control, or are they shackled to external outcomes? Do your intended actions contribute to the common good, or only to a private gain? This isn't a test, it's a compass, a single question to return to anytime you feel the current of time pulling you into anxiety or distraction. It brings you back to the core, to the agreement, to the understanding that a life well lived isn't measured in years counted, but in harmony achieved, in the quiet certainty that you used your brief, borrowed time to play your part. With reason and with care, the quality of your attention, it determines the depth of your life. This journey, these 26 principles, it wasn't about finding more time. It was about changing your relationship with the time you already have. A blueprint, really, for turning life's brevity from something that creates anxiety into something that gives you power. From the grounding clarity of Memento Mori to the active embrace of Amor, Fati. From the strategic focus of the 3 disciplines to that cosmic perspective, the view from above. Each idea is a tool for building a life of intention, not just a schedule of activity. They teach us that a meaningful existence isn't measured in the years you count, but in the moments you fully inhabit. In the challenges you meet with character, in the connections you honor with your presence. Seneca, in one of his letters, he offered a final distinction that cuts to the core. He wrote that it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, he said. A sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements, if it were all well invested. But when it's wasted in heedless luxury, spent on no good activity, we're forced at last by death's final constraint to realize it has passed away before we knew it was passing. So it is, we are not given a short life, but we make it short. We are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it. His words remind us the real poverty isn't in the calendar. It's in our attention. The real wealth is in using our days, however many we have, not merely to exist, but to live. Your path forward starts not with overhauling everything, but with a single conscious choice. Look back over these principles, let 1 or 2 resonate. Maybe it's the morning practice of Memento Mori to clarify your day. Could be the evening journal review to audit your attention. It might be the simple commitment to the discipline of action in your next role, however ordinary it seems. Choose one, integrate it tomorrow. Let it be the seed of a lifelong practice. A daily returning to the wisdom that makes time feel abundant because you are finally present within it. This is an invitation to a different way of being. We'd love to hear which principle spoke to you most deeply. Share your choice in the comments. It helps build a community seeking that same grounded wisdom. If you found this guide valuable, consider subscribing. We create more content like this, turning ancient philosophy into practical tools for modern life. Remember, your life is happening now, not yesterday, not tomorrow. This breath, this decision, this moment of focus, that's where you master the art of living. Go and use it well.